Hi, and welcome to the Hypno Godmother Show. I am Shirley, clinical hypnotherapist, mental health first responder, activist, and your all around Hypno Godmother. I'm here in Southern California with a private practice, and just kind of wondering if anybody wishes they could be, have a little more healthy habit that they want to get back to being more like just yourself. Well, I actually specialize with the LGBTQIA community, but I love working with everybody. So, if you feel like you need a little extra help, I am here for you. And you can always contact me on whisperingsinhypnotherapy.com or contact me anywhere that I'm on every social media that you could possibly think of. So, yeah, I'm here online. And if you need me, just check out whisperingsinhypnotherapy.com and I am here for you. So let's start out the show the way I love to start out the show, and I know you do too, because now we're into this. So first thing we want to do is take a nice deep breath, hold it, and exhale with a smile, because a smile is the way we should start every day and every show. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to wiggle those toes. Yes, I said it. We're going to wiggle your toes. Inside your shoes, outside of your shoes. I'm doing the sock thing today, so all that's well. Okay, the next thing I want you to do, this is coming, so wiggle those buns. Come on, wiggle your buns. Squeeze in those cheeks, wiggle your buns. Good. And we do this because we're getting our body moving, but I can't tell you to wiggle your butt, and you can't probably wiggle your butt without smiling, and so that is what we are going for, So the next thing I want you to do is take another nice deep breath. And this time I want you to exhale with a wonderful affirmation. I got this. We're going to make it through. Everything's going to be okay. I generally go with I got this because sometimes I just need to give myself just a little bit of extra something. I love doing that. And if you've got a little extra time, extra 30 seconds or so, because we know we're in our safe place. We're not out driving. We're not out doing anything weird. We're in a nice, safe place. We're not working on a project. We're not supposed to be dealing with clients. We're not supposed to be doing any of that other stuff. All we're doing is just getting it together. So now, if you've got that extra time and you are in that nice, safe place, I want you to wiggle your ankles a little bit, roll those around, get your stomach, get your middle moving. If you can, roll your shoulders, maybe around your neck a little bit. Oh yeah, let's get it all together. Let's get ourselves moving. Oh yeah. And in that short amount of time, you have now loosened up everything from your toes to your nose and above. And that's what we're all about is, getting yourself together and making yourself feel better mentally and physically. And, I love it when people come to the show, and I love my Patreons. So if you want to become one of those, go to patreon.com, look for Hypno Fairy Godmother Radio Show. I love y'all for that. And what I want to kind of go over is, first of all, sorry if I sound a little nasally, having a little ear thing happening, but, let's just go with it and see what happens. I know for a lot of us, this last 2 years or so have just been crazy, especially when it comes to your mental health. We have dealt with depression and anxiety and claustrophobia. And it's important to know how we're coping with these things. Some of us are coping better than others. So as a hypnotherapist, I get asked a lot about mindfulness and does it really work and what are ways of dealing with it? So I thought today we're going to go over and we're going to do our mindfulness kind of remix. So what does it mean? How does it help? How does it help you? How does it help those around you? That it's not just for adults. Sometimes it's for kids. You can use it for any situation. I do this on a daily basis. For me, it is daily and how things can happen. So, what actually is mindfulness? You hear that term everywhere, and I keep talking about it, and I'm thinking, you know what, let's explain it a little bit for those that aren't quite sure or those that are new to it, and why I think it's so important. Because I think it's so important to get yourself to where you're feeling present and you're feeling important. So, mindfulness are just small personal practices that can help us increase our ability to regulate our emotions, to decrease stress, anxiety, a little bit of depression. It can help us focus our attention as well as observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment, and without judgment on ourselves, without judgment on others. It just kind of helps us keep in tune as to what's going on. And it can be helpful, like I said, for any age. I have actually taught high school students how to use mindfulness and how to be present, and they've used it for better test taking, ease of general stress, both mentally, both at work and at school. And I've taught grade school kids how to use this, and I've taught a lot of adults how to use this, because Lord knows we need to be present and we need to be paying attention to where we're at. And too many times, what happens is we're either thinking so much about what used to happen or what happened, or we're worried about what could happen. So you're either thinking in the past or you're thinking in the future, but you're not necessarily thinking about now. And what we need to do is we need to concentrate and kind of think about where we are right now. I always like to ask yourself, and I'll be asking later on, how do I feel right now? How do I do things right now? Instead of, you know, how did you handle that? What's going to happen? We don't, and life can be overwhelming. We know this. We have been dealing with this for the last couple years. Even before then, now it's just gotten a little bit crazier. But, you know, that life can be overwhelming, and our minds are filled with so much chatter. And our view of the world has become tainted and distorted, and our ability to be present is pretty much lost. And that's what we need to get back, because I know that sounds familiar to you, because it does to me. And, you know, life can sometimes be frantic and it can be exhausting. And when it's like that, it's impacting our happiness, our health, our work. It even impacts the economy and the world around us. So we need to have a way to deal with what's happening around us at all times before things get worse. The object is to figure out little tips and tricks with Weeble Kung Fu, that's kind of wobbling, but never falling one way or the other. We're getting ourselves back centered in the middle, because we have to learn how to deal with these things and how to handle these things before they get worse, so that you know what to handle. So over the generations, many, many generations, that, things have gotten worse. Things have gotten, we've learned how to survive. Basically, we've learned how to survive. Food, shelter, not getting eaten by bigger beasties, things like that. But we haven't really learned in our new lives how to handle new situations and immediate challenges. And we've witnessed such incredible cultural things happening in industry and technology, and it's dramatically impacted the way we sleep and eat and communicate, and honestly, how we survive. And I don't want people to just survive. The object is helping you out so that you can actually live and live a fulfilled life instead of just trying to survive day after day. Our minds have failed to keep up with these challenging lifestyles, and we're left more stressed, more depressed, more anxious, And it doesn't have to be this way. I promise you, it doesn't have to be this way. A UK report, you know I love me and my reports, have found that the best way to tackle the problem is to encourage the practice of mindfulness everywhere, in the workplace, in education, in healthcare, even in the criminal justice system. You know, these are things that we really need to do and we really need to handle. So, honestly, to be mindful just means that we need to pay attention is to what's happening right now. What's happening in our mind and our body and our immediate environment, and to maintain being present. You can be curious, you can be compassionate, have all those feelings going on, but the object is actually to just be present. It improves in response to straightforward. It's you know, I talk about meditation, and mindfulness is part of meditation. And whether you meditate a lot or meditate a little, mindfulness is just a little set of practices to increase that awareness of those thoughts and sensations and feelings that you're going through, combined with increased kindness. Remember, we all love kindness and passion. Mindfulness actually improves our capacity to cope depending on what's going on. So that's, a really good thing that mindfulness is there to help you cope and help you deal with things before things get overwhelming. And it can be as simple as being aware of your breathing and your body. Simple things, but a lot of us aren't aware of things like our breathing. We're not aware of what sensations are going on in our body because we're so busy trying to deal with everything else that's going on. And we need to observe our thoughts and emotions as they come and they go, and refocus our attention to what's going on while, around us, while remaining curious and compassionate and accepting. These are important things. And you've heard me talk about doing a body scan. So I'm going to explain that a little bit more, because I recommend body scans at least once to twice a day. I actually try to do one in the morning when I first get up, and maybe once at the end of the day. Or if you're feeling really stressed out, you can throw one in the middle of the day, just to make sure that you're dealing with things the way that you should. So, if you feel the anxiety coming on, throw in an extra body scan or one of the other little tips that I've given you to just see where your brain's at. Here's what we do. We start at the top of our head. Good place to start. Some people start at their toes. I always start from the top and work my way down. And basically, you mentally picture, so I say picture, pretend, or imagine a big ball of light above your head. And like I said, that's why I say picture, pretend, or imagine. Some of us are great at visualization, some not so good. And take that and have that ball of light slowly move down from the top of your head, from the crown of your head, and down through your body, out through your limbs, from beginning to end, and see if there's any unusual aches or pains that you're not used to having, any twitches, any anxieties, any little things that you may be aware of, so that it'll help you to get rid of it. Because the whole idea is, if you are feeling something a little abnormal, then to get rid of it. We can all benefit from increasing awareness while being less reactive and judgmental. So we're aware of what's happening, and we can benefit from it. So that's what we're doing. We're slowly, we're taking and observing what's going on in our body, and how that's affecting you mentally, how it's affecting you physically. It can be observed objectively. So you're kind of stepping a little bit. Sometimes it feels like maybe you're stepping a little bit out of your body, but I'm not getting all woo woo on you or anything like that. Um, you know, so if you feel something that feels a little off center or feels a little twingy or a little anxiety in the pit of your stomach or something's feeling a little twitchy, now you're aware of where it's located. And so you can work on getting rid of it. Because once we're aware of what a situation is, and once we're aware of where it is in our body or where it is mentally, you know, you can deal with it so much better, you know? And it'll help us, especially if we're feeling a little anxiety or we're feeling a little more stress. We tend to take things a lot more personal, and we feel that other people are being judgmental. And they may not be. It may just be the way we're feeling. So we're taking those thoughts that we're having and we're taking those actions that we're having and we're observing them. And, sometimes I call it a mental event. And what's happening isn't actually maybe what you think it might be. It can be observed, kind of from a distance, especially if you don't have all the information. So let's say you're feeling a little anxious and somebody walks by you and they say something and you're like, well, that's really judgy. And you're like, where did that come from? Well, maybe you don't know the full situation of what's happening with that other person. So what's affecting you can affect the way you perceive other people, which is great. And what's great about it is that you're now observant and you're now seeing that maybe what's happening with you isn't the same as what's happening with this other person and your reactions. It's like a game of telephone that you start with the sentence, and by the time it gets to the last person, everything is thrown out of proportion. Everything. And we don't want that to happen. So, that mental state may not be everything that's happening. You know, it's kind of thought-based observation. If you don't have all the information and you know where your body's twinging and you know where your body's reacting, then think about what that person may have said or that person may have done. And think about it from maybe even another, how do I put this? So that you're looking at it from another point of view. You're not taking what they said completely personal. You're just taking it from where it is. So, when you're doing this body scan and you're finding these twinges and twitches and things that you aren't normal for your body. We all have aches and pains. I wake up every morning and stretching everything out, and the older I get, the more I sound like Rice Krispies when I'm getting out. And it's just, these are things that you're looking for that aren't actually ready. They're not there every single day. So let's see, you feel the anxiety coming on. Okay, so think to yourself, what may be causing this? Has something recently happened that's causing you the anxiety? Or if you feel a little twitch or a pain, ask yourself, what do you think may have caused it? Did you sleep wrong? Or is this something that you should be aware of? Now, the nice thing with body scans is that you're checking everything out, and sometimes you can put a name to it and sometimes you can't. Now, the body needs pain, and the reason why the body needs pain is because pain is a warning trigger that something needs to happen. Maybe you overdid it. Maybe you slept wrong and you got a crink in your neck, or your shoulder's like way out there or whatever. Then you're now aware of it. So is this something that you need to take care of immediately, or is it just a little ache? And if you do find something like that, what I recommend is while you're picture pretending or imagining, and you've got this big orb of light going through, checking out all your joints and checking out everything that's happening, when you find one of those little twinges, those little, just like twinges of not needing that right now, or it's not severe enough, or it's just a tiny bit of anxiety before it blows up, what you need to do is have that orb of light absorb it. Have it absorb it. Your imagination, picture, pretend, or imagine. Just, you know, woke up this morning, had a little twinge in my elbow I wasn't expecting. Don't need that right now because I got something else happening. Okay, so this is a minor thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have that orb of light absorb that into the light, get it away from me. And as you're going through your whole entire body, what you're doing is you're picking those things up, and they're grabbing little aches and pains, and they're grabbing little bits of anxiety and grabbing little bits of this. And this is all stuff that you just don't need right now. You don't need it anymore. You've been hanging on to it. Maybe it's chronic. Maybe it could be anything. And you're just letting this light absorb it so that by the time you get down to your toes and you've gone through your whole entire body, you just let that little pretend light shoot straight through your toes and out into the universe. That's right. Just have it shoot straight out into the universe. And that way you're not having to deal with it right now. And it works that way with mindfulness because what we're doing is we're being observant of how our body's handling things right now. We're being observant on how things are happening, whether, and what you're doing is you're not letting the past dictate how things are going, and you're not letting the future dictate how things might be, because we can't predict the past or the future, which is why we're here in the present. Yes. And when you learn how to do these things, and when you learn how to figure out what your body needs, and you begin to get all the benefits of the awareness of being less reactive and judgmental, then things are set up to where your day is going to run so much smoother. And the reason why I love teaching this to younger kids, or any type of kids, but is that there was a study done, in what it said is that children that deal with mindfulness and adults that have dealt with mindfulness and they have a little bit more together, that once they've witnessed like trauma, like really bad trauma, let's say a hurricane or a tornado or whatever, that it's less traumatic, and they have less post-traumatic stress disorders, because what they can do is they can compact it and they can go, okay, that happened, and this is how I'm going to deal with it. And it appears that with the mindfulness, it helps us manage existing stress and offers protection from future stress. So, and it's about happiness. It's about finding your happiness and how important mindfulness is to our perceived happiness. And happiness is not just something that feels good. It offers protection for us against disease, and it helps protect us against maintaining a positive mindset, which is crucial to being healthy. When we do mindfulness training, they did me and my studies, they did this study where heavy duty mindfulness training was given to patients with diabetes. And not only did their measures of happiness increase, but amazingly, their blood glucose levels were even better controlled because they didn't get so stressed out. And we all know that when you get stressed out, you start breathing more shallow, and your heart rate goes up, and your blood pressure goes up, and everything just piles on top of each other. And, there are even some people we're all about our smartphones. And there are even some apps that can help you out. I have a smartphone app that helps me when I just need to make sure that everything else is shut off, and I just need my mindfulness. I just need to listen to soothing ambient music. I just need to handle things in a more calm way. And it helps keep me a little more balanced, and it helps with my happiness, and it helps me so that I can work with what's going on in my day. And improvements have been seen with people with low mood, with anxiety, with even depression, that once you get control, once you know what your body's doing and how to handle these things with mindfulness, which is again just being present, and it also helps with your memory. I know it sounds really crazy, but they not only have mindfulness not only has a positive effect on stress, but it can also help improve your sleep. It can help improve your memory. It and who doesn't need that? Mindfulness practices have been proven so popular and powerful that even a 3-minute session, and later on we're going to do the 3-minute mindfulness thing because I think that is so important, that they can have immediate improvements in your memory performance. And there are so many other cognitive improvements that can happen. Mindfulness improves our ability to tackle problems. We have problems pop up every day. You've got stuff going in your mind, out of your mind. We got little fires that build up, and how we handle those. It reduces your mind wandering and offers the potential to increase the capacity in the rest of your brain to help with your cognitive processing. Scientists used to believe that the brain stopped changing at a certain age. Well, now we know it doesn't. While our genetics and early years partially define who we are, the rest of it is all kind of malleable. With every day passing, we are literally training our minds and changing our brains so that we can flourish individually and collectively. And this is coming from a doctor who did this, he did this whole book on rewiring your mind and discovering the science and practice of mindfulness. And it's an amazing book because of how it helps you rewind. The realization is hugely important and it's freeing. The concept of neuroplasticity, which I know is like a key word right now, but it means that your brain continually develops throughout your entire life. At any age, you can change your brain's physical architecture at any time. And in a sense, it's evolutionary that we can do this. We can strengthen our essential pathways and prune back the ones that don't work with us anymore. So your brain is constantly changing. Doctors have and scientists, I believe in science, and scientists have now proven that during your whole lifetime, your brain can change. And some easy ways to think about mindfulness and how they can affect you are things like eating mindfully. When we eat, when you drink, when you enjoy, the object is to enjoy what you're doing. When you eat, eat. When you're drinking, drink. Don't be doing 6 things at the same time. And when you're doing several things at the same time, and I'm guilty. I am guilty of doing multiple things at the same time, and it's a process. When you're eating or drinking, or you're with somebody, or you're out in a restaurant, or even when you're just eating with your family, be present. Enjoy what you're eating, enjoy what you're drinking. Don't just take the joy out of it. If you've spent the time cooking and making a meal, enjoy that meal. Don't just think of, okay, so I've got 15 minutes to eat, and, not enjoying what you've eaten. Take your time. Enjoy it. Enjoy the company around you. Being mindful, being present. When you go out and take a walk, I'm all about getting fresh air, and we're allowed to leave our homes. We just have to be a little careful. But, you know, I always tell you, observe what you're doing when you're taking a walk. Observe the sights and the sounds, the sensations around you. You know, if you're in a place that still has flowers blooming, enjoy them. Some of us are under snow, and I know it's not so easy to enjoy that walk, but enjoy what you can. You're going to be amazed at once you're paying attention to the things around you, how more beautiful things are. For some of us, we're lucky enough. I am very lucky that I live in an atmosphere where, or in an area where we have stuff bloom most of the time. That's fabulous. But I know some of you aren't. But you're going to notice things like little grass trying to survive, trees. You know, if you're in the middle of winter, check to see if there's still leaves in the trees. Sometimes there are. Think of how hardy that tree has to be for that to happen. It's amazing how that works. Observe your breathing. Yes, I am a big one on observing your breathing. Your breathing occurs naturally and rhythmically. But when you pay attention to it while you're doing things, it takes it out of your mind and into your body. When I tell people I'm going to teach them to breathe, they always look at me like I'm crazy. Like, lady, I've been breathing my whole entire life. You don't need to teach me to breathe. But breathing properly is different than just breathing. When I tell you to take a deep breath in the beginning and the end of the show, and sometimes during the show, when I'm telling you that, it's to take a nice deep breath from your core so that your lungs completely fill up and that you're observing your breathing. And when you're observing your breathing, your heart will slow down. Your blood pressure will go down. You will remain a little more calm, which is why it helps in all these studies that we've been talking about, is that when you're breathing naturally and you're breathing consciously, what it can do for your body is incredible. So yes, when I tell people, when I have clients in and I tell them the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to teach you how to breathe, I know they think that I'm nuts, but once I teach them how to breathe properly, you notice the difference immediately. You momentarily free yourself from all the weird thoughts and worries and fears and remind yourself of who you really are, your inner spirit, not your inner thoughts. Two totally different things. I want you to connect with your senses. We've talked about, connecting when you're eating and drinking. Connect with your other senses. Put your love and attention into simple tasks of your day. You'll be amazed at how much joy and peace that can bring you. Your sense of touch and smell, taste, sound, sight. These are your gateways into your present moment. Your absolute present moment. And that's what we want, is we want you to feel that. Pause between actions. Sometimes we go straight from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. Yes, I am very guilty of this and have been working on it for quite a while. So while I'm teaching you, I'm training me. It kind of works back and forth. But putting mini pauses between your actions in your day can ground yourself and your inner being. It can help clear your mind and provide you with fresh energy to go on to the next task. Stop rushing around and slow down to make yourself feel more comfortable of what's happening around you. And I have been working on this and will continue to work on this, because sometimes we kind of overbook ourselves mentally. And when you're trying to do, I noticed yesterday that I was actually trying to do 3 things at the same time, and I wasn't doing a very good job at any of them. So I had to just stop and put things aside, concentrate on what I was concentrating on, putting that pause in between my actions, and it was making me feel so much better. I stopped rushing around. I slowed down. I could concentrate on one thing that I was doing and not three things that I was doing. And, these are things that, like I said, I've been working on. I will have to continue to work on. You know, listen to things around you wholeheartedly. Most of us never really listen to people when they're speaking to us. We've discussed this before, mainly because you're planning on what you're going to say next. The next time you're in a conversation, make sure that your goal is to fully listen to what the person is saying to you without getting lost in your own thoughts. How many times has somebody said, I need to talk to you, and you're so busy trying to figure out how to solve their problem that you forgot to listen to what their problem really was? And those can be two completely different things. Don't overthink it. I like to tell people to actually listen. Don't just hear people. Don't just hear what people are saying. Actually listen. Become involved. Don't try to come up with an answer before they finish telling us what's actually wrong. You can be a great listener and be a great friend without trying to overthink it. Your job is not to overthink it. It's to be that person that's there to listen. And when you are doing one thing, not six at the same time, but when you are doing that one thing, get lost in the flow of what you love to do. We have certain activities that we love doing, and they connect with our inner spirit and bring us fully alive. It could be cooking, it can be dancing, singing, gardening, writing, painting, swimming, building furniture, or whatever it may be. We love doing these things so much that we often lose ourselves while we're doing it. We lose track of time. And what we lose is that smaller self, that churning thoughts, that worry, that gnawing that's going on, because we're pouring all of our love and our attention into the present moment. We're incorporating more flow of activities. We're getting more accomplished, and your happiness is going to skyrocket. I have at least two hobbies. I have many more, but I have at least two things that I love doing. And when I get to be doing them, I lose track of time. I lose hours because I'm concentrating so hard to make sure that my colors are right and my framing is right and that everything that I'm doing, you just get lost in it, whether it's painting or woodworking or crocheting or whatever you may be doing. Get lost in what it is. The same way you can get lost in a movie or get lost in a book. It's so easy to get lost in what you're doing. And that's great. That's perfect. Because what you want to do is you want to get lost. You want to let your mind go. Let it become part of what you're doing. And then you're not thinking so hard on what you should be doing or what you should have done or anything else. Just get into that flow, let your brain go, get into that hobby. I know people that do this with cooking. I know people that, my wife loves gardening. And we have a little garden on the porch, and I can lose her for hours while she's moving plants from one place to the next. It's wonderful. It's getting outside, it's air, it's doing all this, but getting lost in the wonderful things, getting lost in ourselves is wonderful. I'm going to bring up meditating because that's part of mindfulness. Is actually, there's no getting around it. Little meditating has huge benefits. And by meditating, I'm not saying spend an hour, spend a half hour in silence. It doesn't have to take that long. It really doesn't. And it will increase your energy levels, your happiness, your inspiration, your inner peace. It's inspiring that inner peace. And even 3, 4, 5 minutes a day, 10 or more is great. But if you don't have the time, then that's fine. even just that little amount of time can have a positive impact on your life. And it'll also strengthen your mindfulness, which is what we're trying to do, strengthen those mindfulness muscles, so that you'll find it easier that each day you do it, you can do it a little bit longer. I try to do at least 10 to 15 minutes a day when I can. Uh, and it's just becoming a little more of who I am. Um, you know, and let's say that you have to take it, or when you go to work every day, you take a specific route. It's the shortest way to get there. You know how to get there. You don't have to worry about it. You know, mix it up. Don't take the same route to places. There's more than one reason why you feel amazing when you're on holidays and you have great weekends. When you're new to a place, you automatically become more present and more mindful simply because there's new sights and sounds and smells and everything else going on. Your senses take a short while and it frees you up. So, you know, mix up your routine. It'll have the same effect. Instead of taking that direct route that you know how to get to work or school, take a side way to get there. Take a different route. Check in maps and say, okay, I want to get there by not taking specific roads. There have been times that I've had to get into LA because that's where I live, and the freeways are a mess. We all know the freeways are a mess. So I'll actually put into my maps saying, I want to get there without taking a freeway. Yes, that does take a lot longer, although sometimes not. But what that does is that mixes things up again. That makes it so my routes are totally different, and the things that I'm going to see, and the houses and the neighborhoods that I'm going to see are so different that it makes me more present to what I'm doing. Even if you're just going to go to the grocery store, go a different route. Take the long way. Take a different way. Just mix things up. And it's going to have such a difference because now you're actually paying attention. Too often we have what's called road hypnosis or street hypnosis. And what that means is you leave work, your house, wherever you're at, and let's say you leave work and you get home and you have no remembrance on how you got there. You know you left, you know where you arrived, but you don't remember anything in between. This is called street hypnosis, and actually it's kind of dangerous because what you're doing is you've blocked out, you've kind of gone into just, you've zoned out, and that's not good. That's not good. I've actually heard from police officers that they can always tell when an accident occurs on whether the person was in street hypnosis. And that's because there's no sign that they put their brakes on. People have just gone off the side of the road or smashed into the back of a car or into a tree or whatever. And there's no sign of braking because you were in street hypnosis. Which is why mixing up your routine a little bit is always a good thing. We don't ever want to get into an accident because of street hypnosis. And I can guarantee we've all done this. So, you need to be a little more aware of that, which is very important. So sometimes, we need to get out of our own way. Sometimes we need to mix things up a little bit. If you haven't heard from a friend or a relative in a while, you haven't heard from a neighbor in a while that you used to seeing, check up on them. Make sure that they're okay. Change up your routine. Help change up their routine. These are things that are really important. All this is going to be great for your mental health, mentally and physically. Mentally and physically. This is what you need to do. You need to be more aware of what's going on around you. Remember, when you get these anxiety, when you get that happening, do your self-compassion pose. Your self-compassion pose is amazing, and it works so well because you start with a focused mind. You start with this mindfulness that you're learning, and you become aware of yourself, and you put your hand on your chest because you want to make physical contact with yourself. Sometimes we get so far out there that we actually tend to forget that we're actually a solid human being and we have no contact with ourselves, that we kind of lose track of what's going on. And you want to be aware of your breathing, and you want to be aware of yourself and where you're at mentally and where you're at physically. These are such important things. But I told you that we'd go over the 3-minute breathing space, and so that's what we're going to do, because this is the perfect way to get yourself set up if you're going to start trying mindfulness. So, and unlike doing long meditations or even body scans, although I do recommend them, it's quick, it's easy, it's 3 minutes. You can do this. I know you can. I can do this. You can do it anywhere, And what you want to do is spend that first minute, and this is the most crucial part, is asking yourself, how am I right now? Whatever your situation, home, school, work, doesn't matter. Ask yourself, how am I right now? Check in with yourself. You got to check yourself. Make sure that you're not sliding. Make sure that you're aware of what's going on around you. The second minute is keeping track of your breathing and your awareness of your breathing. Slowing that breathing down. Being aware that you're taking actual deep breaths. Asking yourself, what do I need to do to slow this down? And paying attention. That third minute is about paying attention to how, when you start to slow your breathing down and when you start to be aware of how it's affecting you, it's being aware of how it's affecting you. Has your heart rate slowed down? Has your blood pressure gone down? Have your shoulders gone down? Little things like that. And it's 3 minutes of, how am I doing? Am I aware of my breathing? And how is that awareness affecting the rest of my body? I'm guessing it's affecting it greatly. And with 3 minutes, you can do this. I've done this in the shower. I've done this in my car, done this in the front room, done this in my office. You can do this. I've done this at other people's houses because my anxiety starts to really catch up with me. And so what I do is I just go, okay, the next 3 minutes are mine. And you don't have to make a big deal about it. Nobody needs to know that you're doing this. But you just need to become a little more self-conscious and ask yourself, how am I doing right now? Most important question you could ever ask yourself. And become more aware. And I know that keeping a quiet mind is challenging because you've got thoughts popping in and out, and and the whole idea is not to block them, but to observe them and let them go. That's what we're doing. We're not trying to repress your feelings. We want to experience those feelings, but you're human. It's okay. Just try not to get into that negative feedback loop. Just ask yourself how you're doing. Do a little bit of concentration. If you need to try other tips and tricks, that's not a problem. I always have at least 1 or 2 things that you can do. You can check past shows. All my shows are on Facebook. They're on YouTube. You can ask me directly, Hypno Fairy Godmother at yahoo.com, or on any of my social medias. You can totally do that, and it's so important to just keep track of how you're doing mentally and physically. And it's hard. Sometimes it's really hard, but you've got it in you. You absolutely have it in you. I know you do. So I want to thank you for listening today. We're going to be adding on to mindfulness as we keep going. It has been my pleasure to be even a small part of your journey. I hope it's been calming, maybe a little soothing, maybe you learned a little bit, but mostly I hope that wherever you are, you're leaving a little closer to who you want to be. So remember, I'm Shirley, your clinical hypnotherapist, activist, and first mental health first responder. I'm something at Whispering Zen Hypnotherapy and Wellness, and I work with my clients. Maybe you, we work as a team to get you back to being you and get you back to feeling who you want to be without fear, without worry and anxiety. And I work online, so wherever you are, that's where I can be, which is the wonders of technology. And I realize that although I'm a hypnotherapist, hypnosis isn't for everybody. So maybe see if we can work together as a team, because that's what we do. And if you want to book a consultation, you can always do that at any time at whisperingzenhypnotherapy.com, or contact me on, like I said, on any of my social networks. And it has been, again, a sincere pleasure to help you out today and to be with you. Remember, we're going to take one more last deep breath from your core. Hold it in. Exhale with a smile. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you had a little fun. I know I did. And remember to tell all your friends about the show. We're here every Monday at 3 o'clock Pacific time on all of your favorite social networks. And I promise I will see you next week. So once again, take a deep breath and smile.